All right, folks, so we are back on the W.A.D.E concept presented by the Ring Magazine, and we are just weeks away from the fight of the year, Canelo Crawford. If it's not the biggest fight of the year, which it probably is going to be, it is definitely the most important fight of the year for the sport of boxing. And today, Canelo Alvarez held a media workout that gave a little bit of insight into what he's working on for this fight and potentially exposed either a massive weakness or a massive strength, depending on how you look at this fight. I want to show you what potentially could be the biggest difference maker for or against Canelo, and give you a little bit of background as to why I'm leaning the way I am with my pick for this fight. I'm not waiting until fight week to give a little light prediction, so let's do it here today. So what's this media workout mean for Canelo and Crawford? The breakdown, let's go. All right, so as we go into this footage, remember, Canelo is the undisputed champ at 168. Terence Crawford coming up from really 147, but he had to fight at 154 with Madrimov, so sure. 2 weight classes, more like 3 though. And the big narrative going around this fight is, how does Crawford handle Canelo's power at 168? How does Canelo get back to Canelo old ways of moving his feet and utilizing his jab and working on more of just his upper body movement and his defense to offense transition and not just throwing power punches? And can Crawford be able to fight like the counter puncher he is and still make Canelo miss and make him pay like he has at the lower weight classes? And also, how does his body hold up at 168? Those are the questions. But Canelo's open workout may provide some of the answers. Let's take a look. First, we see him shadow boxing, circling to his right, but just basic stuff. And you see one of the big things that Canelo does, and listen, I'm not a professional boxer, I'm not a fighter, and I don't think in any way, shape, or form I should have any position to critique and criticize Canelo. But one of the things that he's gotten in trouble with in the last couple of fights, not being able to cut off the ring. You know, you go to the William Skull fight and you watched him chase William Skull around and around and around that ring. And yes, William Skull was running from him. That was pretty clear to see. He was on his bike utilizing his jab, but you didn't see Canelo cut him off. You didn't see him move laterally to be able to stop a lot of that running or stop a lot of that circling around the ropes, which is his responsibility if he's gonna take the front foot and look to establish himself offensively. And when I watch Canelo here, he's gotten away with this pretty much his entire career, but I watch him cross-step a lot. And you see it right there, where he goes from circling, he rolls under the right hand, and instead of moving laterally, replacing his back foot with his front foot, he L-steps and then crosses over, which instead of just moving laterally and shifting, like I said, shuffling to his right off of the L-step, off of the reset, which would allow him to be ready to go and ready to fight again, it takes him that extra beat to get back into fight stance. A couple of reasons for this may be, you know, listen, he can gain a lot more ground by taking that lead leg and stepping it across and resetting. It feels to me like it takes too much time. And when you are spending time taking the lead leg, crossing it over, and there's a guy in front of you that does want to counterpunch, like a Terence Crawford that does want to be a bit more mobile here and not stand in the pocket with Canelo, because why would he do that? Exchange power punches with Canelo Alvarez. Don't use your feet. Not to say that Terence is a runner, because he never has been, but to try to reset and cut different angles, you don't want to be stepping all over your stance and having to reset and reset and reset instead of being ready to fire when Terence Crawford eventually does change angles, eventually does circle out, or eventually does go from southpaw to orthodox. And if Canelo is trying to L-step and step over himself, that's just wasted motion, and a guy that's coming up in weight that does maintain a bit of his speed could potentially take advantage of. I see it time and time again with him. It's not a massive deal, because that L-step and walk can absolutely reset you as long as you come back with a feint or come back with something to put your opponent on the back foot. It's not the worst thing in the world by any means. It's just, it feels like for the things that Canelo has struggled with in his last couple of fights, you may want to see something a little different there, maybe a little bit more of a shuffle. But we move on. Let's take a look at Canelo on the bag. This is courtesy of Sports Illustrated. He's on the heavy bag at some UFC gym here, and he's just doing a little bit of work. Right hand, left hook, head movement, right hand, left hook, bang, bang. Now again, do I think that Canelo is going to throw this way necessarily in a fight? No. Number one, his feet are very flat. And again, Canelo has made a living off of being able to stand in front of guys and utilize big-time power and be a little flat-footed, right? Upper body movement, head movement, and then throwing shots behind it. Being defensive and then transitioning back to his offense has been a strength of his, especially as he's gone up in weight, where he hasn't had to utilize as much energy, right? Where he's fighting bigger guys that he needs that power punch to put away, even though he hasn't put anybody away since Caleb Plant, but that's another topic for another day. You see him very flat-footed, throwing the right hand lead, bang, left hook behind it. Head movement, jab, right hand, left hook. And then right hand, bang, left hook. And you notice the way Canelo throws his hooks, it's almost like there isn't a lot of winging to it. It's almost like a shovel hook. I don't know, it's hard to really describe, but it's not like a normal hook. He's stabbing that in there. It's not like a come across and slap hook. He's really trying to damage. And Canelo, one of his best shots over the years has been that lead hook into the backhand rear uppercut, or that lead hook into the big right hand over the top. And he really starts to, and I think he took some of this from Triple G in their fight. He really chops down with stuff as he sits down on punches here. But again, one of the big question marks around this fight is, what would Canelo do a little bit defensively? Like, what would he do a little different than he has, you know, per se in the Dimitri Bivol fight? Because as much as people want to believe that the only reason Dimitri Bivol beat Canelo Alvarez was because he was bigger, I disagree. I don't think Canelo can do what he's done to a lot of the 168-pounders and just stand there in front of them or walk them down and be flat-footed and throw his combination big-time power the entirety of the fight. I think later in the fight, after he's established a bit in the beginning, and you start to do that and break a fighter down, I could see a Caleb Plant style overwhelming. I could see a little bit of the Billy Joe Saunders thing, but you're going to have to set things up. Terence Crawford's too good with his eyes. He's too good with his counter punching, and he doesn't have to run away from you to use his feet and cut angles. I don't see Canelo just standing there and looking to just throw power punches all night. I really think for him to be successful, that jab has to be working. And I say all that because when I look at him on the heavy bag there, I don't see him putting a ton of effort into the speed and power. I don't see him putting a ton of effort into moving around the bag. I see him working specifically on a combination that he likes off of some head movement and using that to maybe set up something else that he has a little bit more powerful in the bag. Here's him working on the mitts with Eddie Reynoso, double jab, and then you see that stick of a right hand. Double jab, touch, touch, bang, right hand. And again, Canelo just decides, I'm gonna go for a walk, right, and he just takes off. Now, again, Eddie Reynoso is standing southpaw here, and I don't know if that's a purpose when he's holding these mitts, because Terence Crawford will probably be in a more southpaw stance, and we know that in the past, Canelo has, you know, somewhat struggled with southpaw fighters, but that could just be Reynoso just holding the mitts a certain way. But you see even there, Reynoso goes southpaw, and he's simulating an attack here from Terence Crawford. I'm trying not to take too much away from this, but it's the only footage we've seen, mitts-wise or otherwise, of Canelo in this lead-up. But when you do fight a southpaw as an orthodox fighter, one of the first things that a lot of the game plan is tailored around is getting this lead foot on the outside of your opponent's lead foot, because it opens that lane for your right hand, in this case, for Canelo being the orthodox guy, for his right hand to come straight down the pipe should he want to set it up with his lead hand, and then look to just laser beam one down the middle. Right here, Eddie Reynoso has the outside track, and he's holding the mitts. But then, as we go back and watch how Canelo manipulates the space. Touch, touch with the jab, and then he steps on the outside, straight right hand down the pipe. That is a good right hand versus a southpaw, because it's very much manipulating the speed and the distance and the angle, all in a couple of punches. I like that because it's layered. And again, I could be making a mountain out of a molehill, but you watch Canelo go from the inside track with his foot to just peppering that jab out, touch, touch, step outside, then right hand. So you don't give away the tactic of trying to get that outside foot, but you set it up with the lead hand. Look at what I'm doing here. Step outside, bang. I like that. Very interesting. And again, you see Canelo getting under the lead hand after finishing his combination and trying to protect himself by stepping to the outside, cutting the angle, and then Reynoso wants him to go left and then circle back with the right hand. So there's a lot that you can take away there. Number one, big time right hand from Canelo. Bah! Stuck in that there. And then again, that cross step, which I do not like, and him rolling under kind of a lazy left hook to throw a right hand left hook over the top. And again, I'm trying to look at it as Reynoso playing the role of Crawford out of southpaw. And there's a couple of things that I like, some that I don't out of Canelo, but then again, it's just a drill, and I'm probably making way too much of it. And those are the only clips that came out today in regards to Canelo's media workout. So what do we see there? We see a little bit of what he wants to do to take advantage of a right-hand southpaw matchup. Get his lead foot on the outside, bang the right hand down the pipe, set it up with the jab, and maybe even fire that jab at the lead hand of Crawford to just get it touch, touch, step outside right hand down the middle. We saw Canelo doing a lot of cross-stepping, which is, I think, a bad idea versus someone who has good angle manipulation like Crawford does. right? Every wasted movement is going to be a capitalization for Crawford to try to fire back on. And Canelo is going to be there to be hit with some counter punches. Make no mistake about it, Canelo will stand in the pocket. Yes, he'll try to make Crawford miss, but sometimes he'll even eat a couple so that he can be there behind that high guard, taking punches to look for one of the big ones on his own counter shot. So that can be a little bit of the gamesmanship too. That can be a little bit of the chess game going on, is who's going to land the bigger counter punch and how many of those can Crawford take moving up to 168 versus Canelo, who has been there and is fighting a guy that has fought at a lot smaller weight, that hasn't seen the power, like we talked about, the narratives being built, that Canelo brings at 168. Even now, all those things will come into play. I think a big important part of this fight is just how much Canelo utilizes his lead hand, because I'm telling you, it's going to be the most important thing in this fight. I really think if Canelo is back on his jab and is able to mask some of the stuff that he loves to do, which is that lead hook to the body, smashing hook on the arms, on the body, on the shoulders. If he's able to hide it just a little bit and then hit you with that timing, that Canelo Alvarez timing that's been perfect, that put down Amir Khan, that put down Billy Joe Saunders, that found the button on Kovalev, those punches, that timing, it's not just speed, it's not just power, it's the throwing in between, it's finding the right shot. Those things can make all the difference in the world, because I would almost bet everything I own that if Canelo lands clean on Crawford, it's going to have far more of an effect than Crawford landing clean on Canelo. And that's not even because both guys don't possess power. Crawford possesses power, and he's put a lot of guys down. But Canelo, we've seen, has an iron chin, and I watched Crawford get rocked by Gamboa. Again, different time period, I get that, but I don't think that as you get older, and even as you go up in weight, that somehow makes you more readily available to take flush punches, right? Usually those two things, the combination of getting older and going up to a weight that you didn't naturally fight at, tends to not actually help out your chin, tends to make you a little bit more vulnerable to getting hit with big punches, especially when you're not someone that cuts a ton of weight to begin with. I don't think Crawford was cutting a ton of weight when he was at 140, when he was at 147. So him now trying to bulk to get to 168, it's definitely going to have a factor in the fight. It's definitely going to mean something when he gets touched with a shot from Canelo, who's not, by the way, a natural 168 in his own right, but still, that power carries for him. We still don't know if it will for Bud Crawford. But it's not just about the power and making this as simple as Canelo's power versus Terence Crawford's skill. We take out so many factors like Canelo Alvarez's skill, like Terence Crawford's timing, like Canelo Alvarez's manipulation of your guard and your defense, and Terence Crawford's angle switching and leaving you in bad positions with your footwork to not be able to answer when he fires off, using your own momentum against you as you try to walk him down, and then he steps in with his lead foot, pivots out, and he's at a 90-degree perpendicular, and you're looking over your shoulder like, what the hell was that? These type of things, I think, are going to be more interesting than just saying, well, if Crawford can handle the power, or well, if Canelo can find his chin. Those things matter, but let's talk about the intricacies of it. Let's talk about the nuance that those things both imply, which is that Canelo is going to fight differently than he has as of recent of 168. Almost a style of like, I'm gonna big bro you, which it feels like he's done to everybody at 168, but as of recently hasn't been able to stop some of those guys. And for Crawford, it can't just be him sitting there and letting Canelo walk him down and put him on the ropes and land whatever he wants at will just because he doesn't want to open up versus a 168 pounder. Or he can't be someone that's uncharacteristic of himself. He can't go out there and throw a ton of volume, right? He can't be out there looking like Dimitri Bivol. That's not how Crawford fights. He has to be able to get some respect early on from Canelo, to be able to draw Canelo in and make him pay when he does get a little overconfident, when the hands do go up in that high guard and he just wants to walk through everything, or when he starts winging out those shots and not setting it up with the jab, or when he cross steps and gets his feet tangled up and gets himself out of position. Crawford, unlike William Skoll, unlike Edgar Berlanga, unlike Jaime Munguia, who didn't make him pay for those things, Crawford has to, and he has to do it with some authority. Because honestly, the way I look at this fight is that it's very difficult for me to see Terence Crawford winning by knockout. Not to say it's not possible, because it definitely could be, but I think the path to victory for Crawford is to be able to counter Canelo when he comes in with lazy footwork, or when he stands flat-footed, or when he only throws one or two at a time and Crawford can throw 3, 4, 5 back. I don't see him walking Canelo down, even though he said that at the press conference, how he walked Canelo down. He's going to walk him down because Canelo's supposed to be the bigger man, but we'll see about that. And trust me, I've seen the pictures of Terence Crawford. He looks like he's filling into 168 just fine, but that looks great on camera. It does. It looks amazing in still shots. It looks good when the muscles are glistening and he's all flexed up and he's tired from his workout. But what happens when you have to fight at that weight? And I'm not talking about Canelo's power. I'm talking about body physiology, a weight that Terence Crawford's never fought at, a weight that he's not used to going rounds at least not outside of just the gym. We're talking about a stadium full of people, 60,000, 70,000, whatever it's going to be at Allegiant, and your first time at the weight class. And it potentially could go 12 rounds. And oh, by the way, you need to win more of those 12 rounds. And I'd argue that the only path to victory for Terence Crawford is a decision win. That's just the way I see it. Doesn't mean it's true. Whereas Canelo can get down on those cards early and look to just beat Terence Crawford up and make him adjust to that weight class by going deep into the fight and trying to maintain a style that I don't know his body is ready for and that no one knows his body is ready for. So there's a ton of things still to come, but I wanted to make this video because finally we get some camp footage from Team Canelo. Crawford's been pretty open, at least in bits, about his camp footage, right? He has shown some footwork, he's shown some shadow boxing, he's shown some mitt work. He's not been super shy. It's all on Crawford's YouTube channel. And when I get back home, we'll probably watch a lot more of that because we'll have 2 weeks to get ready for one of the biggest fights ever. But as we sit here, I just wanted to get a quick update on Canelo Crawford and what I think are some of the biggest strengths that Canelo is working on and some of his biggest weaknesses. Comment section, let me know what you think down below. Who wins this fight? What are you thinking from what you've seen in just the small clips out of Canelo's training and some of the stuff from Crawford's training? I don't have the answers as of right now. I know which way I'm leaning, which right now, logically, I think it just makes more sense to lean Canelo, but maybe my opinion could switch, or maybe it won't. I don't know yet, but September 13th, the fight goes down. Presented by The Ring Magazine, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, TKO Boxing, Dana White. They just announced the broadcast team. It's John Anik, it's Max Kellerman. I'm pretty sure I saw Andre Ward on there. It's the who's who of fight commentary, broadcasters, and reporters. Michael Buffer will be in attendance. It will be a night none of us will ever forget. But the real question is, what happens in that main event when Canelo steps in with Terence Crawford? I don't have those answers, but it's only a matter of time. Less than a month away on September 13th when they step in. What happens then? I guess we'll find out.